Hey everyone, welcome back. So now that we've discussed how viruses work in general, as well as specifically the COVID-19 virus, we need to talk about how our immune system works so that we can better understand the vaccination process and also how vaccinations themselves will help our immune system fight the virus off if we are infected with it. All right, so let's get started. So there are two different kinds of immunity. There is nonspecific and specific. So your nonspecific immunity is just a general defense against pathogens. What I should say first is if you think about this in terms of like a military organization, it does tend to make a little bit more sense. So with nonspecific immunity, these are going to be sort of like protective measures that just are a general protection against anything trying to invade. So like I said, general defense against pathogens. So this is either bacteria or viruses that can cause you to get sick. It doesn't target any specific type of bacteria or virus. So this isn't like specific to COVID-19. This is just, like any pathogen in general. So number one, you have your skin as part of your nonspecific immune system. And this acts as like a barrier or like a wall against any incoming invaders. You also have your mucous membrane, which is in your respiratory system, digestive system, and reproductive system. So basically any hole or orifice that leads to the inside of your body is covered in this mucous membrane. And this is meant to like stop and trap any pathogens, kind of like one of those like sticky mouse traps, like you put down the little paper, super sticky, the mouse walks on it, they get stuck and they stay there. That's how the mucous membrane works for pathogens in your body. Now, when you get sick, your nonspecific immune system will also give you a fever. So basically, if you raise the body temperature, it creates an environment that is not conducive to the pathogen being able to reproduce. So it basically slows the pathogen down from wreaking more havoc on your body. Again, a fever also is not great for your body, but at the same time, it's also going to help, fight off that pathogen. It's going to slow down the invasion. And the idea of this goes back to proteins. So if you remember, temperature can affect whether or not a protein can do its job. If you raise the temperature too high, the protein can denature, which means it falls apart and it stops working. So the idea is if you raise the temperature of the body or of the environment that the pathogen is trying to invade, its proteins won't be able to work as well. You do have proteins in your body that can work while you have a fever. They don't work as well. That's why our normal body temperatures are what they are. And then the last non-specific immune system response is going to be inflammation. So you can have what we call acute inflammation, so inflammation of a specific area, or you can have systemic inflammation. So this is when your entire body swells up. So when you do get like the cold or the flu or something, I know personally I get this way. My entire body just kind of feels like puffy. And that's my non-specific immune response. My entire body just getting inflamed. And the idea behind this is that by swelling the blood vessels, so your blood vessels are a certain size, we expand them, that allows more white blood cells to get to the site of the infection. And so white blood cells are basically the cells of your immune system. So we need to get our soldiers to the location where the battle is being fought. And the inflammation helps us to do that. So if you get like a really bad cut or you break your bone or something, you might notice that just that one spot gets inflamed. And that's because you need your white blood cells just in that specific spot versus all over your entire body. So that's your non-specific immune system. When we get into the specific immune system, this means that we are targeting specific types of pathogens using the body's defenses. So each type of cell within the specific immune system has a specific job. So this is when we get into like different branches of the military. So like Army versus Navy versus like Air Force, different branches of the military. And then also within those different branches of the military, you have your different units. So what is it? You have like your, what's it called? Infantry unit versus like special ops versus like Green Berets. All those different units have a different job. And so we can break this specific immune system down into two different responses. You can have a humoral response and a cell-mediated response. So let's talk about what both of those responses do and why. So for the humoral response, we also have to talk about the different types of white blood cells. Like I said, these are the cells that are your soldiers for your immune system. So you have a type of white blood cell called a B cell, and they're called B cells because they mature in the bone marrow. So B bone, that's how it works. And basically, these B cells produce this protein type of structure called an antibody. So this right here is the structure of an antibody, and you can also see them. They're these like Y looking things. They are also antibodies. Now, this purpose is basically to tag different cells as infected. So basically, the B cell goes around releasing antibodies, and these antibodies bind to the specific infected cells. So if you have a cell that is infected with the COVID-19 virus, this B cell will release the antibody will bind to that cell, and is basically like, hey, come find me. This is a sick cell. Let's get rid of it. Let's kill the virus. And so that, like I said, that's what the antibodies are doing. So they are a small protein that will attach to pathogens and act as a signal flag. Oh, so they can bind to the virus itself too. So let me rephrase that. It binds to both infected cells and it can bind to the virus itself. So it can bind to the actual COVID-19 virus. And basically, like I said, it just marks the pathogen for destruction. And the type of cell that comes around to destroy the infected cells or destroy the pathogen itself is called a macrophage. So I might be dating myself here, but if you've ever played the game Pac-Man, the guy that goes around chomping everything, basically macrophages are sort of like Pac-Mans that go around chomping anything that is tagged with an antibody. For the cell-mediated response, this is when things get a little bit more specialized. So you have other white blood cells called T cells, and this is because they mature in the thymus, which is the gland in your neck right here. So thymus, T cell, and basically these T cells will activate the other white blood cells. So these are like the, hey gang, let's get everyone together and fight off this pathogen. So the T cells are going to activate the macrophages. These are the ones that will come around like Pac-Man and eat the antibody tagged pathogens. And you also have the cytotoxic T cells. And the cytotoxic T cells are the ones that are going to go after the cells that have been infected. So both can be tagged with an antibody. Macrophages go after the pathogen. Cytotoxic T cells go after body cells. So basically, like if your body cell gets infected with a pathogen, you can consider it like a mole. And the cytotoxic T cells are taking out those moles that are in your body. This is a military reference, not like actual animal moles. Okay, let's keep this going. So this is just pictures of what the macrophage looks like, as well as the cytotoxic T cell looks like. Now, while all of this is going on, there's obviously a lot of debris and dead stuff accumulating from this epic battle happening inside your body. And that's when your lymphatic system comes into play. So your lymphatic system is basically like a set of tubes, And it very much mimics the blood vessels that you have all over your body. Like it travels to the same place. A lot of them are like right next to each other. But basically, you have these tubes, and their job is to transport a liquid called lymph. And it will carry white blood cells, but it will also drain fluid from cells. And this will collect in the nodes of the lymphatic system. So you have nodes in different places of your body. So, for example, in your neck right here, under your armpits, in your groin. And as this buildup happens, and you'll notice this with some people rather than others, but that debris that needs to be drained from the body, it kind of collects in your nodes. And that's why you can get swollen lymph nodes when you get sick, because you have this buildup of white blood cells trying to do their job. So after all is said and done, the body will create what we call memory cells. So this includes both B cells and T cells. And basically, these memory cells are familiar with that specific type of pathogen. So keep in mind that you will have very specific T cells for very specific pathogens. So you will have different T cells for like strep throat, for the flu, for COVID-19 if you end up getting it. Any type of pathogen that comes your way, it has a specific type of T cell that your body has created. And if you are interested in that, we can have a discussion during class, because the genetics behind it is very, very interesting, but I don't want to overcomplicate things. So basically, the idea is with this memory cell, if the pathogen attacks again, you already have a very quick immune response, because you know which type of cell you have to use in order to fight off that type of pathogen. And so you can still get infected with the pathogen again, but you might not notice the symptoms of getting infected with it, because your body already knows how to fight it off. So keep that in mind for when we talk about vaccines in a second. However, and this is what we're starting to see with COVID-19, that some pathogens can mutate very, very rapidly, and they mutate just enough so that the memory cells don't recognize it as the same type of pathogen. So this is why we have to get a flu shot every single year. This is why the common cold will infect us almost every single year. It mutates just enough that our body no longer recognizes it. And this is what we are currently seeing with COVID-19. Some people are actually getting it for a second time because it is mutating quickly enough, and it is different enough from the first version that the body doesn't even recognize it. So this is when vaccines come into play. Now, the main idea behind the vaccine is to get your body to have an initial specific immune response to that pathogen. So basically, you are introducing that pathogen in some way, shape, or form to the body so that your body can create the specific type of T cells it needs to fight it off. So the way that we usually will introduce a pathogen to the body for a vaccine is to use weakened pathogens, dead pathogens, or specific proteins that are attached to that pathogen. In that way, your body recognizes it. Now, because it's dead, weakened, or we're just introducing proteins, you're not going to get symptoms from the vaccine, but you still get the benefit of creating the memory cells in case you get that infection in the future. So that's what we are seeing with the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, with the COVID-19 vaccine, we are using RNA vaccines, which are very, very new. And basically, we are introducing some of the RNA code as part of the vaccine so the body recognizes it and knows to fight it off. But then also, if you think about the entire process that the virus has to go through to hijack the cell, as long as we can get our body and our cell to stop that process from taking place at any point in time during that process, that will stop the virus from being able to be spread inside of our body as well. So like I said, if you would like to talk about this in more detail during class, let me know. I would love to talk about it. But I do not want to overcomplicate things here because I know I just threw a lot of information at you. So I'm going to stop here. Please check in with your vocab notebook. Make sure you are working on it. Make sure you are filling in the different vocab words. Let me know if you have questions during class. And thank you for listening. Yes. See you in class.